The night they tried to humiliate him was supposed to be funny. It was supposed to be harmless. It was supposed to end with laughter and screenshots sent around a group chat. But no one planned for the way the air would change when a small voice would cut straight through the cruel setup and quietly say words that no one in that fancy restaurant would ever forget. If you believe that kindness can change lives, that second chances are real, and that no soul is too small to matter, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel so more stories like this can reach hearts. Ethan Parker had spent most of his life underneath broken things. Broken engines, bent frames, cracked exhaust pipes. He grew up in a quiet, struggling town in Ohio, in a small, faded house that smelled like oil and old coffee. His father had taught him how to fix cars before he taught him how to tie a proper tie. Life had never handed him anything easy. When his father passed away and left him the tiny mechanic shop filled with rusted tools and unpaid bills, Ethan didn't complain. He rolled up his sleeves and worked harder. His hands turned rough. His back stayed sore. His heart, though, stayed gentle. Across the state, in one of the tallest glass buildings in downtown Chicago, lived a world Ethan had never touched. Charles Harrington was a name people whispered with respect and fear. CEO of a powerful automotive technology company, he wore expensive suits, controlled millions, and trusted almost no one. But his daughter, Grace Harrington, was nothing like him. At 8 years old, she was soft, observant, and kind in ways that made adults uncomfortable because it reminded them of what they had lost. The prank was born in a cruel boardroom, among men who thought they were untouchable. They found Ethan's name through a charity event list and laughed at the idea of setting him up on a blind date with a mystery woman at a high-end restaurant. It was supposed to be a joke, a social experiment for their amusement. What they didn't mention was that they told Charles Harrington that he was meeting a respectable potential investor's family member, and that his daughter would come along for dinner. Ethan almost didn't go. He sat on the edge of his narrow bed, staring at his only decent button-down shirt. It smelled faintly of detergent and gasoline. He didn't belong in polished marble lobbies or silver table settings. But something inside him, maybe loneliness, maybe hope, told him to at least try once in his life. The restaurant was all soft lighting, quiet music, and walls that glittered. Ethan felt every eye on his worn shoes and calloused hands. He stood awkwardly by the table that had his name on a shiny card, feeling more like a mistake than a guest. That was when Grace saw him. She had slipped away from her father's sharp conversation with the waiter, her small hand holding the hem of her simple white dress. She studied Ethan quietly, noticing how he stood like someone expecting to be thrown out. Not with fear, but with familiarity. She walked straight toward him without hesitation, her presence gentle but strong. She said she liked him. She didn't say it loudly. She didn't say it for attention. She said it as truth, as simple as breathing. And that single, honest moment cracked something open in a room built on pretense. Ethan didn't know how to react. He felt heat rush to his face. He wanted to disappear. But Grace didn't walk away. She sat near him, swinging her legs slowly, telling him she liked his hands because they looked like helper hands. She liked the way he looked nervous because it felt honest. Charles Harrington witnessed everything from a distance. At first he was angry, then confused, then unusually quiet. He had spent his entire life surrounded by people who pretended. Now his daughter had found comfort in a man who had nothing to offer but sincerity. But the prank didn't stop there. One of the executives leaked the truth mid-dinner. The laughter started around the room. Phones quietly lifted. Whispers traveled faster than the soft music. The setup was exposed. Ethan heard one of them say the word mechanic in a way that made it sound like dirt. He felt his chest tighten. He reached for his jacket. He had been laughed at before. Life had trained him to disappear before the laugh got too loud. Grace reached for his sleeve. She didn't understand the business world. She didn't understand jokes made by wounded grown men. But she understood hearts, she understood loneliness, and she felt the room turn cold around the only person who felt warm. She said something that no one could plan for, and no grown man could argue with. She said he felt safe. The room went still, the kind of stillness that comes when truth walks in uninvited. Charles stood up slowly. For the first time in years, he saw not with his status but with his soul. He saw a tired man who had spent his life fixing what others threw away. He saw his daughter, choosing purity over pride, and he saw his own reflection in the polished table, smaller than he had always believed. Ethan tried to leave. But Charles stopped him, not with orders, not with power, but with a quiet request that surprised even himself. He asked Ethan to sit, to stay, to finish the meal. No prank, no game, only respect. The room changed after that. Some people left, some stayed quiet, some lowered their phones, and in that quiet, something real started. Over the following weeks, Charles visited Ethan's garage without cameras or headlines. He watched him work. He noticed how he treated old cars like they were patients, not junk. He listened to him talk about his father, about failing bills, about simple dreams that didn't include private jets or boardroom victories. Ethan struggled with trust. He expected everything to collapse again. Life had taught him that kindness came with a trap, but Grace continued to visit. She brought small drawings of cars with smiling faces. She brought cookies. She brought silence that didn't hurt. The turning point came when Charles offered to buy the garage. Ethan said no. He said no because that garage wasn't just a business. It was his father's hands, his childhood, his survival. And for the first time, Charles respected a man who couldn't be bought. Instead, Charles invested in people like Ethan, not as charity, as partnership. The company funded small mechanic shops across struggling towns, not to control them, to lift them, and the pranksters, they disappeared from the story, quietly and meaningfully. Years later, Ethan's garage no longer smelled of desperation, it smelled of hope. Young boys from broken homes worked alongside him. Grace grew older and braver. She never forgot the night adults tried to make fun of a gentle man. Now, before this story ends, if it touched your heart even a little, please type "I believe" in the comments. One small phrase can tell someone else they are not alone. Like the video, share it with someone who needs light, and let your heart be heard. Ethan still wore worn shoes, but he walked with his head up, because one child saw him when the world tried not to. And if this story moved your soul, made your chest feel heavy, or reminded you that kindness still survives in quiet places, please engage with this video. Your likes, your comments, your shares help keep stories like this alive and help others feel less alone. In a world that tried to laugh at him, a child chose him. And sometimes that is how miracles begin.